Good afternoon. The December 6th meeting of the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust will be in order. The first is the approval of the minutes from the November 15th meeting.
Will we approve the minutes?
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the November 15th meeting. Are there questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry. That's what comes from doing this for 30 years. And they changed the system on me. Anyway, but it's changed it a long time ago. I should have learned by now, right? Slow learner, too. The next item is the consent docket. Number of items on the docket.
Move the consent docket subject to individual consideration.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the consent docket, items A through T. Are there any matters to be discussed separately?
A lot of change orders. Just a comment.
We've been. I think I want to throw back about that one. We did issue a lot of work in a hurry to attempt to respond to issues that we had in the water system over the summer, and so for cases where we've done a number of change the date, adjust the scope, kinds of things that we're trying to keep up with them, though, so that we're responding timely, so that everyone knows what's going on. Pardon me, I digress, okay. Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments on the consent docket items A through T? Hearing none. Voting, please. Consent docket's approved. Next item is the concurrence docket.
Move the concurrence docket.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the concurrence docket. Are there matters on that docket that we need to talk about separately? That's items A through E. Hearing none. Voting, please. Consent docket's approved. Next item, item 5, is an emergency construction contract by resolution, and it requires 4 votes, and we don't have 450.
We'll need to defer.
Okay.
Ask we defer that till the next meeting.
Second.
A motion and a second to defer item 5 to the next meeting. Further discussion? Hearing none. Voting. Matters deferred. Item 6. A couple of temporary and permanent easements.
I'll move the easements.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Can we do those with one vote? Motion and a second to approve both items 6A and B. Are there comments? Hearing none. Voting, please. 6A and B is approved. Item 7, 2 matters for each must be considered separately. The first one is item 7A, which is a request to name a park road in the OK Paw Park. Sandra, someone help me with
Bob Zinn.
Bob Zinn Lane. Apparently this has been approved by the Parks Commission, and there's a required time for comment, and I don't believe we've had any comment. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the recommendation concerning the name. This will appear, if it's approved, we'll approve on the City Council docket probably next week or the week after. December 20th. Voting, please. Item 7A is approved. Item 7B is enter into executive session concerning the lawsuit with the tribes.
Will we go into executive session?
Second.
Motion and a second to go into executive session. We can vote up here, right? Voting, please. We will go into executive session at the end of the docket. Item 8 is a report from the general manager concerning the status of the utilities department through October 31st.
Marcia, can you update some of those lake levels subsequent to the report?
Yes, happy to. We have had some rain since this report, so Lake Hefner is currently at about 1193.3, 1193.4. It got a few inches of rain over the weekend. Lake Overholser is at 1139. I should tell you what that means. Lake Hefner is still 6 to 7 feet off maximum, But Lake Overholser is about 2.5 feet off maximum. Lake Draper is up about 0.6 of a foot it's actually into the 1160 range, and so we're making progress. We're ramping up pumping from Atoka, and so we're expecting to make more progress. Although we made 0.6 of a foot in a week, we're thinking we'll be closer to a foot a week through the winter months.
Okay.
Well,
That'd be good.
relatively, yeah, for a few weeks at least, we'll be doing a little bit better. Then Lake Canton, of course, remains pretty low. We have seen some rain in the western part of the state, and Lake Canton did get a nice rain, but not enough to produce significant runoff into the lake. It's a critical one to watch. Again, it's at around 1603 yet today.
Next item is operating cash fund projection report for November.
I'll move the report be received.
Second?
Motion and a second to receive the report. The report's received. Are there questions or comments? Next one is the fiscal year 2012 monthly pro forma and status report through October 31st.
Move approval.
Second?
Have a motion and a second to approve. Comments?
Mr. Chairman, as you might guess, we're about 3.3 billion gallons pumped ahead of previous years and our forecast. So that has produced, because customers are using more water during these dry months, it has produced a higher income than expected, and we continue to look at what our net income is after all of the emergency help that we got in the process. But that part's good. The rates are producing what they're supposed to, and again, producing income that's consistent with additional use of water.
Historically, have we had substantially higher use during the winter, in dry winter months? I mean, does it make a substantial difference in the winter time?
It can. It can make a difference that we look at in terms of our annual averaging of water use to calculate residential sewer bills. These tend to be continued outdoor uses, of course. So for residential properties, we look at a series of months to average those bills, and we analyze that for Aqua and bring that to you in March to take a look at. We have some other issues pending about the wintertime average we'd like to discuss with you.
So you'd anticipate in a dry winter that you would actually use more water, which would increase the sewer bill?
Yes.
Just even though that people don't tend to water much outside during the winter, they water more than they would have otherwise, and that's going to raise that sewer bill.
Yes, it can. Sometimes a dry winter is also a warmer winter, perhaps not. So we do look at it in some detail. The billing system helps us now look at how things changed so that we can tell you when we select the months, when we recommend the months that you'd use for the sewer average, whether we think that is relatively the same, and we work to select the months that are the most the same.
I had one other question about the statute, the lake levels I didn't ask. I guess we're pumping into Draper 24 hours a day now.
Absolutely.
What's the long term? By long term, I mean next 18 months. What's that expected to do to Atoka and McGee Creek? Because we're going to be running it 24 hours a day.
As dry as things are of course, the whole state has been in a drought. The little pocket that is McGee Creek and Atoka has been in a moderate level drought. Those lake levels are down about 7 feet from maximum. As we continue to pump, if we don't have a rainy winter in southeastern Oklahoma, those lake levels may go down. They are currently holding about the same.
I just recall in the past being down there and seeing them at levels that I think were probably really unacceptable. Certainly they were unacceptable to people that lived there.
Yes.
And I would hate to see us, I guess we just need to pray for rain's the only answer to that, right?
Yeah, well, it depends, a lot of it's going to depend upon how the spring rains come.
Right.
And obviously, if we're, pump it down a little bit, if we don't pump it down, and they get some good spring rains and that water just goes over to the spillways.
Right.
That's not our best
Right.
use either.
Okay.
We are pumping hard from McGee Creek so that we're balancing the two lakes as best we can.
Okay. Is there any new business? Or do we need to vote? We need to vote. Have a motion and a second to accept those reports. Voting, please. Next item is new business. Is there any new business?
I think we've got a,
What?
Number D.
Oh, D, this is what we just got through doing. Did we just do that?
I think she is in power.
Oh, okay. All right.
Thank you. I'm a little slow today.
All right. I see.
I appreciate the help, Francis. Mr. Samandi is going to tell you about our response and what we're doing about peak follow-up to our peak water demand workshop. And of course, we have the obligatory PowerPoint for your viewing pleasure.
Does work. My name is Sam Samandi. I'm the Utilities Engineering Manager. This presentation is a follow-up on the Aquat workshop in October and the events of this past summer. In this presentation, hopefully I'll provide a short background and some of the issues we ran into this summer and the current status of our system as it exists today, and maybe provide some alternatives to revising the current CIP to better attend to our issues. And maybe after that, a little bit of discussion as well. The issues that we had this summer, everyone knows we had the hottest summer in the country this past summer. And because of that, an extreme lack of rainfall attributed to a lot of demand on our system. Our demand, previous record was about 189 MGD, and this summer went up to about 202 MGD, which was a pretty good increase on our stuff. At the same time, some of the issues we ran into in order to deliver that water, we had to increase the pressure out of Draper, and we ran into a lot of water main breaks throughout town, especially in the south side of town. And then we also were faced with some low-pressure areas on the southwest side of Oklahoma City. We took some emergency actions to remedy some of those issues by providing temporary pumps at Booster Station 9 and 14, and we were able to also put out some more emergency projects to help out with line maintenance, repairing main breaks in town. And then what we'll have here, a proposed modification to CIP. The information that I have in this presentation includes an analysis of the water main breaks by pipe material and replacement projects that we've undertaken. Because of some of the particular issues we ran into this summer in terms of water main breaks, due to corrosion, we also investigated a method of maybe providing protection in terms of cathodically for the whole distribution system. And also looked at a little bit more closer to the southwest extension improvement that we have to do, and also show you the proposed revisions. We went back to our data from September of last year to September of this year, and the report that we have is that like 96% of the breaks were due to iron pipes, cast iron and ductile iron pipes. Most specifically, cast iron are pretty old pipes, and they constituted somewhere around 70% of the main breaks. We also had some main breaks with PVC pipes and other types of pipes, but they don't mount a whole lot. The problem area is the cast iron and the ductile iron pipes. On this particular slide, you'll see all the water main breaks that happened during this July and August. They're shown in red. And we looked at and did a complete analysis of the replacement project that may have to be done in the critical areas like south of I-240. And our criteria for determining all of that stuff is the old traditional 5 main breaks per mile per year. And if you took that criteria, it looks like we'll have to replace about 70 miles of water line. But if you take the holistically and put in the analysis in terms of all the water main breaks, not just this summer, the amount of pipe that we need to replace would be substantially less than 70 miles. And I think this is an area where looking at the cathodic protection could actually help out preserve the longevity of existing pipes that we have. And cathodic protection, our research indicates the cost of cathodic protection is about 10% of cost of replacing all of those pipes. And several utilities are implementing such measures. And it's expected that we get about 20 years extension in life. But before we start any project like that, as a system-wide project, we think we need the services of a consulting engineer that is a specialist in the cathodic protection for distribution system. The next slide that I have shows the pressure area issues that we confronted this year and that the system needs to address. This is a slide I pulled out from a previous presentation that we had given to the trust when we were getting the CIP approved last year. The pressure areas on the northeast, northwest, and southwest are the areas that we're trying to deal with. On the northeast side, this year we're putting a couple of small mini booster stations to help remedy those particular areas. On the northwest side, close to Morgan Road Tank, we're adding another big pump to help out, put the water out at a higher pressure so that we reduce the amount of low pressure calls in that area. But the biggest issue that we have that we need to do, which takes a lot more money and effort to do, is addressing the issues on the southwest side of town. This issues, we've tried to deal with it by bringing another water line from Draper to that area. And so far we've done about 9 miles of it, closer, and about 4 miles of it in construction currently. This little map concentrates on the southwest transmission extension. You'll see the stuff that it's in red is the portion that's completed on the bottom of the chart. And then the stuff that's in green is the stuff that's in construction, and hopefully will be completed here shortly. The other stuff that shows a little dot, which is in pink, is a new booster station 25 that we're proposing to install. So we can deliver the water better to booster station 9, and then from there to booster station 14, and resolving that area. But unfortunately, to get there, there's just a long section of water line that needs to be built. So this is all within the current CIP that we've had. What we'd like to see done is maybe expedite that process a little bit faster so we can get to it quicker. In terms of holistically, all of that southwest transmission improvement, so far we estimate it will cost about $185 million when it's all fully done. We've done about 42% of it, $76 million, and within the proposed CIP that we'll present here is we're going to do about another 28%, which is about $52 million. And still, we still got to do another 30% after that. So in terms of modifying the CIP this summer, another issue that we found out is that we still need the reliability of Oberholzer treatment plant to help us meet peak demand. So we would like to do some of these projects to increase the reliability of the plant. Also, make sure we have funding to do the booster station 25. And what we've suggested in the CIP is to defer some of the treatment plant expansion projects to be done a little bit later on. So we'll bring up a little bit of money forward to do the transmission lines that needs to be done. And I think that brings me to the end of this presentation. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you might have.
What's the schedule on the improvements at Hefner?
Hefner is supposed to be finished up by summer of 2013. It's a critical project for us to be finished up.
So will we get any more flow out of it this summer?
This summer, we're still going to be the same as 75 like we are today. It's just we won't be able to bring anything. It's a function of the filtration part that needs to get finished up.
Yeah. All right.
All right, thank you.
Could you go back to the last slide before this one? Let me ask you a question about that. The revision, I suspect the plan is that we fund these other projects by deferring this treatment plant improvement?
That's correct.
Where we're getting a great deal of that money?
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about what we're deferring and what you think
Yes.
the impact of that deferral would be?
Yeah, those two, the money that we had allocated for the plant projects was for expanding Draper to 150 MGD and expanding also Hefner for 150 MGD. But those can wait until we build this water line. So we need the 150 MGD a little later than today, maybe by 2018 or something like that. So that's why we're deferring it.
Well, how long will that defer the?
I think that deferral will we don't need the 150 MGD for another few years. So by the time this...
Let's just assume we have a couple more years like the last two. Even if we have 2 more years in a row like the last two,
Yeah.
we still wouldn't need these improvements for these 2 more years.
That is correct. The improvements for 150 was predicted to be needed by 2021 in the master plan. So by that time, we should have 150 MGD running. That's why we're deferring it a bit. And there was more deferral of taking care of the low-lift pump station at Hefner so that we can produce 150 MGD out of Hefner. We deferred that as well.
It's always a difficult choice. What we'd like to do is return to you, because we are in the process of developing the capital plan proposal for next year. I'd like to return with more details about the longer schedule. Moving as much of this transmission project forward as we can would be very helpful for our customers in the Southwest. We're also making, I want to be clear that we are, through various projects that we haven't called out in specific detail, proceeding with, again, additional pumps at the booster stations in the Southwest.
Right.
Optimizing other pumping in the system by changing valve operations, by giving the system operators the ability to open and close the valves where that will redirect flow out of, Jim, that would be out of booster station 15?
Yes.
To assist in, they'll be able to a little better control pressure zones and move and shift the boundaries of pressure zones southwest to help us force water southwest. So we are already making improvements that we believe will make permanent what we did last summer on a temporary basis, and make some other enhancements that we learned about through last summer's operation. Particularly having the Oberholzer plant running reliably and not shutting down on us at critical times is something we focused on for next summer. But every place that you take something away or add something, you are taking something away. So we would like to be able to describe that more holistically for you and for ourselves.
Yeah, I appreciate it from an accounting standpoint. I see that, but what I'm concerned about is the deferral of these treatment plant improvements, which are necessary. Is that going to accelerate the time that we need to raise rates? Because these unanticipated, we're going to have to raise rates sooner rather than later. I mean, does that change that?
We're working on not changing the rate plan. We have that, obviously, possibly to have that option, but that's not the way we plan to prosecute it.
Obviously, I'm not interested in raising rates. We don't have to. On the other hand, we have the ability to do that. I mean, that's what we, in fact, I'm not sure, not only do we have the ability, we have the responsibility to raise rates to make sure that we don't defer maintenance. That's what we got into 20 years ago or 40 years ago, however long ago it was. Time just flies when doing all this, but in the middle 80s, that's the situation we were in. We deferred things,
Yes.
and then we had all these backlog of maintenance things, so we had to make a pretty significant rate increase and change the way we handle rates. I just don't want to get into that inside this system,
Right.
doing the same thing, kicking the can down the road and not looking at it realistically about whether the rates structure is still going to hold up for the period of time that we predicted that it would.
From an engineering side, I would like to have all the money to do everything right away. But I think the deferral of these for 3-4 years, I don't think it will adversely affect us in terms of the plan. We would like to do them as quickly as possible. I think Marshall mentioned already something about effectiveness this summer. It's a booster station 15 is a workhorse for the city of Oklahoma City, and it was extremely helpful mitigating some of the pressure issues out southwest of Oklahoma City. So a couple of other things we've done, we've instituted a thorough checkup of all the pump stations to make sure they're all working. We've put out projects to make sure they're all tested and they can function as they are expected to do, so we can address the issues as best as we can. But I fully recognize what you're saying.
Well, I think those are just questions that things that ought to be talked about at least.
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you to go back a couple more slides to the one where you showed the brakes.
Yes.
That's more than a couple, so more. Back further. That one right there. No, that one right there. Show the percentage of brakes and the number of brakes and all that in the actually 4 different categories.
Yes.
That doesn't have much relevance unless I know the percentage of total pipe in the ground that's cast iron, ductile iron,
Yes.
and PVC. I mean,
Most of the pipe is ductile iron and PVC, and most of it's ductile iron and cast iron, and most of the older pipe. I mean, you can almost go in order.
Right.
Of the oldest is cast, the next oldest is ductile, and the newest is PVC.
Yes, based on age, it's also relevant based on age. That's
you think it does more, it's more suggestive of the age of it rather than the material?
I think it's a combination of both.
yes.
Yeah, it's both. I think 96% of Oklahoma City's distribution system is made of iron pipe.
Either cast or ductile?
Cast or ductile, yes. So it's a huge system that is essentially ductile
Well,
iron.
then, I mean, that's not so unanticipated then if you look at it from an age standpoint as
Right.
opposed to a material standpoint.
Some of the older cast iron pipes, they were used to be designed with a much thicker section. All of those are a lot resistant, even though they may be old, they were more resistant to being eaten up. They would be eaten up, but there's like a sacrificial part of it was gone. But most of the stuff we're seeing here now is due to the corrosion this summer. 88% of them, which is a to me it's alarming. So we've got to do something about taking care of that.
Well, that helps. If it was all the same, we'd be digging it all up, I guess, and putting PVC down, but that's not the case. Okay.
Well, the fact of the matter is there's a lot of life left in that ductile iron pipe, and what Sam's suggesting to do is to add some cathodic protection in some key areas, which will extend the life of
No,
that pipe.
I just wanted to make sure I understood it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, is there any new business? Any comments from trustees or staff or citizens? Hearing none, we will go into executive session and be back.